Hey, good evening and welcome to Freedom of Speech and You. Gotta adjust the key. This may not be a good color shirt to wear tonight. Let's see what happens. Can I can I wear this tonight? Or am I gonna be a ghosty person tonight? Yeah, this is not a good color to wear. That's gonna be a problem. I should have thought about that before I started the show. Because the key, well, I could just disappear and just be ahead, but I don't think that's a good thing. So I'm going to set the level right. I'm going to go change my shirt because my shirt is just too close to green. That's what I get for wearing a Miami Dolphins colored bluish shirt. So I'll be back. I'll be back. Hang on. Okay, much better. So now if you ever wonder why does he always wear the same shirts over and over again, now you know. So that stuff doesn't happen. Yep. All right. What are we going to talk about first? Well, we're going to talk about a couple of things that kind of slipped through the cracks last week so that we get everybody here. I mean, I don't know. We have 11 people here so far. We could probably go into the main topic. But let's just talk about these two things while everybody gets into the show. So we might have talked about these last week. I'm not sure. I think these slipped through without being talked about. So if these slipped through last week, let's talk about these couple of things first. So the first one is from a person on Twitter, and it says that DeSantis telling that slavery is the ideological agenda. So this is something that comes to us through CNN. So let me get it scaled up in levels. And I will take myself off the screen so you can hear it in its entirety.
No one had questioned it before we decided as Americans that we are endowed by our creator with unalienable rights and that we are all created equal. Then that birthed abolition movements. So you can't teach history that's being used to pursue an ideological agenda.
Back with me, Van Jones, David Swerdlick, and Scott Jennings. Van.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had the same reaction. Slavery didn't end, and technically till 1865, 1776. That's almost a.
Well,
I mean,
first of all, you reveal a lot when you're speaking about stuff you don't know anything about. So
mic muted because I didn't want to talk over the video. What was all of that about? DeSantis is really eager to make sure that no Black history is taught in schools. And he is just adamant, every element of Black history is going to be something that he's going to say is part of critical race theory. And he's going to use that over and over again to try to keep the true history out of school, because he doesn't want to allow anyone to teach the true history. So that's what that's about. There is another here. So this one is also a DeSantis video or clip or statement. So this is an article, actually. So let me get this one up here. So this was from January 20. So it's a little more than a week ago. And what we have here is federal judge ruling that Governor DeSantis violated the Florida Constitution and First Amendment when he fired State Attorney Andrew Warren based on a false allegation. But the judge says court can't restore Warren to office. So this is in the Miami Herald. And that's probably gonna, okay, it might let us read it. See if we can make that big enough. Ads and ads and ads. Okay. All right. Are you having trouble hearing the audio? Maybe I'm just being super quiet tonight. Maybe I need to move the microphone a little bit. Let's see if I have a setting issue. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I see a good audio. It's probably just me being super quiet tonight. So you can see the title, DeSantis violated state constitution, First Amendment in firing state attorney. This article is from January 23rd by Dan Sullivan in the Miami Herald. And the article reads, despite concluding Governor DeSantis violated Florida Constitution and First Amendment last year when he suspended Hillsborough State Attorney Andrew Warren, a federal judge ruled Friday that he didn't have the power to restore Warren to office. So the judge is saying, I can't put Warren back in office just because DeSantis kicked him out, even though he didn't have the legal ability to do that. So U.S. District Judge Robert Hinkle found DeSantis suspended Warren based on the allegation that the state attorney had blanket policies not to prosecute certain kinds of cases. The article will probably tell you this, but Warren basically didn't want to follow all of the law. He didn't want to prosecute cases that involved prosecuting people for getting an abortion or going to another state to get one. So I'm pretty sure that was the reason. We'll see if that's in the article. The allegation was false, says the article. This is Hinkle's words. Mr. Warren's well-established policy, followed in every case by every prosecutor in the office, was to exercise prosecutorial discretion at every stage of every case. Any reasonable investigation would have confirmed this. So what the judge is really saying is, if a prosecutor doesn't want to prosecute any case, if he doesn't or she doesn't feel they have a case, a prosecutor can always do that. The governor cannot insist that a prosecutor prosecutes someone just because the governor sees a violation of the law. But Hinkle concluded the Constitution prohibits a federal court from awarding the kind of release Warren seeks, namely to be restored to office. So what he's saying is, as a judge, I can't put you back in office just because you were kicked out. You want to get back in office, you're going to have to run for office again. That's basically what he's saying. Warren and his attorneys were expected to comment on the ruling later. So there might not be. Susan Lopez, appointed by DeSantis to replace Warren, sent a memo Friday to the state attorney's office staff, including 130 prosecutors, simply that their work will continue. So DeSantis kicks him out. DeSantis puts her in office because DeSantis is saying, I can kick you out. You violated state law. And he put her in office, because normally a governor can kick somebody out of office and put somebody else in if the person actually violates the law. But what the judge is saying is he didn't violate the law, so he should not have been kicked out. But at the same time, the judge is saying, as the judge, he can't put him back in the office. Her memo said, many people will want to talk about the suspension, the lawsuit, and the ruling. We will instead continue to focus on the work of the agency. So essentially, she's going to sit there in office until it's time to run again. And there's nothing else that Warren could do about that. And this is the judge's ruling. It's 59 pages long. You know, we won't go into all that, but if you want to read that, let me scroll back to where this comes from. It comes from the Miami Herald. And what's the video about? I don't know that the video is about the same thing. Oh, DeSantis has a video where he announced arrests of 20 people on charges of voting illegally because they had been convicted of murder or sexual assault charges during a press conference in Fort Lauderdale, August 18th. So that's an old video where he goes into basically, you know, who was violating the law because they were convicted of a felony. Really not even related to what the story is related to. So. Okay. The title of tonight's show comes from the fact that Donald Trump talks about building a dome over the United States. So is everybody having sound issues? Because I keep getting messages from the producer that there are sound issues with tonight's show, and I don't know why. There's really not any changes to the level. I mean, it looks good to me. So the levels are the same. I can move the microphone closer. Maybe that'll help. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Seems like it's good there. Nothing is different. I could just be talking quieter than usual. I don't know. So I don't know. Other than listening to it, I don't know. So I could listen to it and see what happens. So let's just see. Does it seem lower or not? Lower or not? Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Lower or not? Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Seems normal to me. So everything's normal. If the volume is abnormal on your end, you need to maybe restart and rejoin, because maybe you got a glitchy connection and you just need to rejoin. So so there were a couple of things that Trump talked about recently. So Trump talks about building an impenetrable dome over the United States as he warned of a possible World War III. Let me make that bigger. At a rally in Minden, Nevada on October 8th, newly released footage shows Trump complaining about his popularity with American Jews. So that was an old photo. But in the recent rally, he warns of possible catastrophe of World War III amid increased nuclear threats from Russia. He claimed that other countries were making threats because they have no respect for our leadership. Those are his words. He said he would build an impenetrable dome over the United States, similar to Israel's Iron Dome. So he talks about this. He says he'll do this if reelected president. He warned of a possible catastrophe. Okay, we mentioned that already. And this is what he said. If you take a look right now, the nuclear world is being mentioned all the time. This is a word you're not allowed to use. It was never used during the Trump administration, Trump said in a video released Friday. He says that Biden has forced Putin to threaten nuclear war. He will build an impenetrable dome. Okay, so he goes on to that, and he talks about that, and that's his video. So we've come back to the video. He claimed that nuclear threats are being made by other countries because they have no respect for the leadership. Okay, we mentioned that before. He appeared to reference Vladimir Putin and his allies making threats about using nuclear weapons. He said, quote, World War III would be a catastrophe unlike any other. This would make World War I and II look like very small battles. Those are his words. To address this potential threat, he would build a state-of-the-art next-generation missile defense shield, just as Israel is now protected by the Iron Dome. So he's talking about a missile defense shield, kind of like what Reagan used to talk about. He isn't talking about anything new. Israel's Iron Dome was designed to intercept incoming missiles and is one of the most advanced defense systems in the world. So he isn't happy with the fact that we haven't had a single attack by another country in all this time. He just has to make up these stories that somehow we're, vulnerable in a way that we've never really been vulnerable before. He goes on to say America must have an impenetrable dome to protect our people. He's the only one to announce his plan to run for president in 2024 from the Republican Party. His comments about a possible world war come a day after he posted a message on Truth Social claiming he could negotiate an end to Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours. He's frequently claimed that the conflict would not have taken place if he was president, despite the fact that he withheld military aid from Kiev, which played a role in his 2019 impeachment. Experts have also said the former president emboldened Putin, and Trump has frequently praised the Russian leader even after his invasion of Ukraine. So that's all of that article, I believe, and the video is there. This is the video.
If you take a look right now, the nuclear word is being mentioned all the time. This is a word that you're not allowed to use.
Nuclear, 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 just to prove that I can use it.
Never used during the Trump administration. But now other countries are using that word against us because they have no respect for our leadership. World War III would be a...
That's right. Got no respect for your leadership. Absolutely none.
A catastrophe unlike any other. This would make World War I and World War II like very small battles. The best...
What a joke he is. He knows nothing about history.
way to ensure that such a conflict never happens is to be prepared with unmatched technology and unrivaled strength.
How are we going to have unmatched technology in a place where you malign technology every single day of your life? How?
This end, when I'm commander-in-chief, to build a state-of-the...
You were commander-in-chief for 4 years. Did you actually do anything except go to the golf course and run your mouth? Hell no.
Next generation missile defense shield. Just as Israel is now protected by the Iron Dome, a dream once thought impossible, America must have an impenetrable dome to protect our people.
I'd like to put an impenetrable dome over him so I wouldn't have to listen to him. The cone of silence is a good start. The article mentioned his idea for Ukraine. So you want to know what his idea for Ukraine is? Here you go. His son tells us.
Or didn't have Russia invade, unlike all the prior presidents and Joe Biden, their neighboring nations. Why don't we bring that back? Ukraine can overperform. I mean, I don't think they're winning. It seems like, the news will say, every time Russia makes a gain, it's not really a significant strategic victory. Every time Ukraine makes some sort of gain, it's very significant. No one knows. Okay, they don't know. They're trying to make it seem, but this has been going on forever. Obviously, Russia has underperformed. Everyone thought this thing would be over in 2 weeks, but when they ask for F-16s, then what's next? Where does it end? Where does the blank check stop? So, like everything that Trump's been right about, you can see his tweet on Truth Social, like, first come the tanks. It's going to never end. Until we say enough is enough, no one's coming to the table. Until we say we're not funding this crap anymore, no one has an incentive to negotiate.
So he doesn't want to fund anything. His dad doesn't want to fund anything.
Point does Russia say, hey, you know what? Now that we're at war with the United States, essentially, now we've been in a proxy war for basically, a year at this point. I mean, since its inception, right? If you miss like your taxes by like $2, the IRS is coming to visit you. The Pentagon, what's a couple $100 billion between friends? So I imagine there's more money being sent over there. So, and as long as they're doing that, and I imagine as long as people are grifting off of this and making their billions and stealing whatever it is, and
So he just admitted that companies grift off the war.
We see the Taliban's now selling our vehicles that we left there of the billions in equipment there to Russia so they can use it against Ukraine.
No, they're not selling our vehicles because we damaged our vehicles when we left. We left the vehicles in a damaged condition. They can't really be sold. They're just bunches of scrap metal that are useless and no good for anything.
Ukraine, who we're supporting in this proxy war, when does it end? When do people in Russia say, hey, we're fighting the U.S. at this point and escalate? Because that's what I'm worried about. This stuff should be overstacked or didn't have. So
he basically says his daddy's idea is just don't fund anything. Don't help Ukraine. Just let it get taken over. That ain't going to work at all. Not going to work at all. Last week we saw Trump say that he met Silk for the first time. That's definitely not true. So let's show you how that's not true. See if I can stop this. There we go. Okay. So, last week he tried to tell us that he met Silk for the first time, that he never met her before. Well, let's just show you when he met her for the first time.
How great? How great are they? How great are they? I turn on my television one night and I see these two on television. I say, they are the greatest. What is it? They became an internet sensation. I hope you've monetized it a little bit. Do you want to do a little routine? Come on, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that the media can see us and all. See them? There they go. There they go. I see them. I see them. I want everybody to know.
So that's enough of that. That proves that he really did meet both of them at the same time. He cannot claim that he suddenly met Silk for the first time. He just can't. This is an interesting one that comes up a lot of time. This is something different. So, because you probably had enough of Trump, but You'll hear a lot of people say over and over again that, there are jobs. And you'll hear them say, why don't people take jobs? Why are these jobs available and nobody's taken a job? So this young lady tells her story. Sorry, we got ads popping up everywhere. So she says, Indeed be lying. Job applicant says Chili's manager told her they weren't hiring servers, but there's a job posting on Indeed. I'll make this bigger. It's not even just them. I applied to 30 places and nothing, she said. So this is in Daily Dot. It's by Jack Albin, stated yesterday's date, January 28th. And it reads like follows. The food service industry is purportedly still recovering from labor shortage that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. While many other industries, including popular retail chains, reported that they were overstaffed as early as mid-2022, restaurants and eateries were still scrambling to get enough folks to come in and work. Hang on. However, TikTok user Sam stated that she was unable to get hired as a server at Chili's despite the franchise location showing on Indeed that they have an open position. Sam writes in the text overlay of the TikTok, quote, just got off the phone with Chili's. They said they weren't looking for new servers, end quote. Since then, flips her camera to show the job listing on Indeed at a New Jersey location. She added in the comments, sorry, these ads keep popping up, section that hasn't been the only job she's been unable to land. She writes, quote, it's not even just them. I applied to 30 places and nothing. It's so crazy. Is it me or inflation? End quote, she wrote. And she's got a video there. The Daily Dot reached out to Sam via TikTok comment and Chili's via email for further information. According to other TikTok users, this appears to be a recurring theme. Folks just can't seem to land a job no matter how many different businesses they apply to. Another user wrote, I was applying to jobs who said they needed people badly and they just won't get back to me, end quote. Another said, I've been ghosted or rejected by 15 different places, including Wendy's and Lowe's. I've worked there before too. One user penned, I straight up had an interview and I called because I was running 2 minutes behind and they were like, well, we're not hiring for servers anyways. She's put laugh out loud, or he put laugh out loud, laughing my ass off. But there were other users who speculated as to why businesses might be putting out ads. And this is the part that I really wanted to get to, that they were hiring. Like one user who claimed, fun fact, companies get tax breaks when they have a bunch of ads but don't hire people, saying that Joanne at corporate taught me that. So what they're saying is these companies are placing ads that they're looking for people, but they're doing that just to get tax breaks. And they're not really doing it because they need people. And so why am I interested in this? Over and over, I hear Republicans say to me on social media, there's all these job openings, but nobody wants to take them. This generation is so lazy. They don't want a job, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, maybe there aren't job openings. Maybe it's just hogwash to get taxes. Another TikTok user thought that there might be another reason entirely companies are asking for personal information from job applicants. And this TikTok user said, how much you want to bet it's the companies putting ads out for information collection? So you got to wonder if it's that. Are they looking for names and addresses so they don't have to pay to get names and addresses to send their advertising to? Talk of a 2023 recession seems to have flipped the great resignation script of 2022 considerably, the article continues. With massive layoffs from big tech companies and reports that hiring will be slow this year, there are a number of analysts urging employees to hold on to their current roles. However, CNBC reports that a whopping 96% of the workforce are looking for new jobs in 2023. And I think that's the end of the article. But if you just wanted to see the TikToker in her own words, there's her video. I don't know if we can make that bigger. I guess we can just play her video though.
I try not to kill myself.
I don't know. There wasn't much of a video there. It froze, so we won't show the rest of that. But basically, you know, she told her story about how she tried to get a job and she couldn't find anything. So that's not so great. So how are you all feeling out there tonight? It is curious. You wonder if the government really is doing that, giving them tax credits. And it is bad how little they're paying some of these people. Yes. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Good to see you all out there. Are you all on YouTube? Yes, all of you on YouTube. That's awesome. You can all talk to each other. Okay. We've been talking a lot about abortion rights. The right to health care for women. We have a Mother Jones article tonight about Minnesota. Minnesota becomes first state to pass bill enshrining abortion rights post-Dobbs. An article by Noah Leonard in Mother Jones. So after more than 14 hours of debate, the Minnesota Senate passed a bill on Saturday that would establish a fundamental right to abortion in the state. Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, said he will sign the Protect Reproductive Options Act, also known as the PRO Act, into law. The move makes Minnesota the first state to pass a law guaranteeing the right to abortion in the wake of the Dobbs decision, according to Minnesota Public Radio. Abortion is already legal in Minnesota as the result of a 1995 state Supreme Court decision. The bill will not have a major impact on Minnesotans' current access to abortions, but would make it harder to restrict abortion rights in the future. Quote, what we saw was a need after Roe versus Wade was struck down this past summer to codify the rights we currently have in Minnesota into the statutory law to provide that extra layer of protection, end quote, said the bill's lead author, Representative Jen McEwen of Duluth. The PRO Act passed the state Senate 34-33 on a party line vote. Democrats rejected numerous Republican amendments, Minnesota Public Radio reports. Quote, we have the duty to answer the call of Minnesotans to truly protect those reproductive freedoms, to enshrine them not simply in case law, but in our statutory law, McEwen said. These are our values. This is the practice in Minnesota. This is what we believe. So Minnesota has basically come up and said, you know, if the federal government decides to do something that ends a woman's right to abortion on a federal level, they have a state law hoping to stand up against it. So that's what they've done. On the other side of the aisle, we have this story from Utah. Utah just became the first state of 2023 to ban gender-affirming care. It's probably not the last, writes Julia Lurie in Mother Jones. On Saturday, Utah Republican Governor Spencer Cox signed legislation banning gender-affirming surgeries for transgender youth and placing an indefinite moratorium on hormone treatment for minors who haven't yet been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So if there's any confusion about that, that basically says that if a child wants to become a woman because he feels he's really a woman, or if a woman, a female child wants to become a man because she feels she's really a man, they're just saying, no, you can't do that. And if there are cases where the child has both genders because of a medical condition, they're also saying you can't do that to decide between the two. And so that's real problematic. While Utah is the first state in 2023 to limit gender-affirming care, it is not likely the last. A barrage of state bills brought by Republican lawmakers this year seeks to control the lives of transgender children. More than 150 such bills are being considered in at least 25 states, according to the New York Times, including proposals to ban transitional health care, restrict drag shows, and prevent teachers from using the names and pronouns that match the gender identities of their students. Some of the bills, which are backed by longtime GOP operatives and Christian nationalist groups, have nearly identical language, suggesting a common template. Those organizing the legislative push include the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Family Policy Alliance, the American Principles Project, and the Heritage Foundation. Quote, "This is a political winner," said Terry Schilling, president of the American Principles Project, a conservative think tank, according to the Times. Schilling argued that more midterm voters might have come out had Republicans not, quote, shied away from the issue. Go on and believe that. You go on and believe that you're the majority, but you're not. Last year, Governor Cox made headlines when he vetoed a bill that would have limited participation of transgender kids in school sports. But in a statement about the recent legislation, he argued for pausing permanent and life-altering treatments. Those are his words. He added, again, his words, quote, "While we understand our words will be of little comfort to those who disagree with us, we sincerely hope that we can treat our transgender families with more love and respect as we work to better understand the science and consequences beyond these procedures," end quote. In other words, it's our way or the highway with these types. Major medical organizations, including the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Psychiatric Association, agree that gender-affirming care is key to improving health outcomes for transgender individuals, especially youth. Such care is associated with dramatically reduced rates of suicide, depression, and anxiety, and substance abuse. You would think that the Republicans would support things that keep people from killing themselves, because after all, right to life, right to life, right to life. But no, they don't care. In a letter on Friday, the ACLU of Utah urged Cox to veto the bill, saying, quote, by cutting off medical treatment supported by every major medical association in the United States, the bill compromises the health and well-being of adolescents with gender dysphoria. It ties the hands of doctors and parents by restricting access to the only evidence-based treatment available for this serious medical condition and impedes their ability to fulfill their professional obligations, end quote. Senator Mike Kennedy, the Republican lawmaker and family physician who sponsored the bill, expects the legislation to be litigated. You think? You think? Yes, they will legislate it. He said, quote, I'm afraid that I'm going to be working on this for the rest of my political life, end quote. A legal review by Utah state legislature obtained by the Salt Lake Tribune suggested that the legislation could be deemed unconstitutional and brought before a federal court. So let's hope so. And in these articles, you've been seeing a couple of things pop up as I've scrolled through the articles. You've seen an advertisement on this page. Yeah, there's an article about him. I don't know if you want to talk about Santos. I'll ask you later if you do. But there's articles about him. There are articles about many other things on there. So when I get to your part of the show, we'll see what you have to talk about. Okay. For some positive things, let's go to this story. There we go. For some positive stuff from the Democrats, we go to this story. With an eye on working families, Democrats launched the Congressional Dads Caucus. California Representative Jimmy Gomez gained national attention as the House endured 15 votes to elect Speaker earlier this month, but not for how he was voting. It was for wearing his baby in the chamber as rounds went on for multiple days. Gomez brought his infant son, Hodge, to witness the historical events unfold. A few weeks later, without baby in hand, Gomez launched the Congressional Dads Caucus. While lawmakers have traditionally brought their children to witness the first days of a new Congress, and many are parents, it's not often you see a baby on the House floor or a lawmaker wearing one, especially a dad. Speaking at a press conference this week announcing the new group, Gomez said he thinks his son's appearance with him at his workplace brought visibility to the role of working dads across the country. We want to show not just interest, but advocacy on the issues that impact working parents, he said. Other lawmakers prior to Gomez have brought their young relatives with them to work. On one of Nancy Pelosi's first days as House Speaker in 2007, her grandchildren arrived on the House floor along with her. In a memorable moment, she accepted a gavel from John Boehner with other lawmakers, children and grandchildren surrounding her. And in 2018, the Senate voted unanimously to change its rules so Senator Tammy Duckworth could bring her newborn daughter to the floor vote. So we see the picture of the former Speaker Nancy Pelosi with the children. Women, even those in Congress, are often ones who take on many parenting responsibilities. Surveys conducted by Pew Research Center prior to COVID-19 pandemic found that women were more likely than their spouses to say they carried more of the load when it came to parenting. In another Pew survey conducted in October 2020, a few months into the pandemic, working moms were more likely than working dads to say their work-life balance had gotten harder since the start of the pandemic. Gomez said, dads needs to do our part in advancing policies that will make a difference in the lives so many parents across the country. Lives of so many parents across the country. Texas Representative Joaquin Castro, who joined Gomez in forming the caucus, said men have a role to play in supporting policies that help working families. Yes, men do. They most certainly do have a role to support working families. Castro said the following: women legislatures. He said of them, they deserve an extraordinary amount of credit, but they should also be able to count on male legislators to be partners in their fight from the beginning. He continued, as a father to 3 young children, I'm looking forward to using this caucus to help us achieve real solutions that have eluded us in the past. Launched alongside other Democrats, including Representatives Andy Kim and Dan Goldman, Gomez said the caucus will focus on key policy proposals like expanding the child tax credit. Yay. Because if you're going to make people have children, they should get tax credits, Republicans. Paid national family leave. Yay. And child care program funding. Yay. We need all these things. You can't just force people to have kids and terminate their ability to have abortions and then say, well, you can't have any support for them. Nope, you got to support the kids. While Baby Hodge missed the press conference because he was back home in Los Angeles with his mom, Gomez tells NPR he and his wife are trying to make parenting work, quote, the best we can, like other working parents. Gomez explained his family's daycare situation, saying they have a caregiver coming 3 days a week, but they are still looking for help to cover the other 2 days of the work week. Gotta applaud him for taking care of his child and not just saying to his wife, hey, just take care of the child. Many of the Dad's Caucus policy proposals are also Democratic priorities, but after the November elections, Democrats lost control of the House. Gomez said the following: I haven't reached out to any of the Republicans yet. We're going to invite more Democrats to join, and we're going to have to reach out, starting with some key committees. So he wanted to start with the core of the House Democrats first. He noted Ways and Means was one of the House committees where he wanted to target potential new members, but he acknowledged the policy differences between Democrats and Republicans. Yep, Republicans usually don't care about all this stuff. They usually think that the mom should take care of everything, or that you should just pay for your own daycare. He continued, I come from the school of thought that we are not going to wait for bipartisanship in order to start advocating on an issue. But without Republicans on board, it's unlikely any Democratic efforts will advance in the House. So it's a great idea, We'll just have to wait to see how well it works, how much help is given to parents, and, you know, whether the presence of his infant child, small child, helps bring more support for the issue. Okay, so got a few of these, all related to the same thing. Gonna wait till I can skip the ads and stop the video. So first there's the video. Hopefully the video does not create a copyright strike. If it does, I do have the article. If the video does take my video down. So we'll see what happens. So first the video, and this is Jim Jordan on, oops, wrong one. Not that one. The other one. Okay. And that one. And full screen. Okay.
You
Maybe
keep
just
talking
stay
about
out.
a raid, but you keep talking about this raid on Donald Trump. The amount of time, there was 9 months between the initial action that the archives made for a request of documents before they even turned it over to the Justice Department. The subpoena was issued 60 days before they actually executed the subpoena. And more importantly, the only time the public found out about it is because Donald Trump told the public about it. This was not some sort of, you paint it as a picture of the FBI did this, this, and this within hours of each other, when it was actually a year and a half of Donald Trump not complying with any of the requests from National Archives. A year and a half. This is not some sort of proof that somehow that they've weaponized and playing politics over here.
They raided Trump's home. They haven't raided Biden's home.
Because Biden didn't defy a subpoena, Congressman. He defied a subpoena. By the way, he had 60 days to comply with the subpoena before they actually executed.
President Trump had documents locked in a room with Secret Service protecting them. President Biden had documents in his garage and in a think tank that was funded by the Chinese. I think there's a difference. President Trump was the only guy who was actually president.
You talk about that. You're worried about the Chinese and Hunter
No,
Biden.
I'm just saying.
Are
I think
you
there's
worried
a
about the
difference.
Chinese and Donald
They
Trump?
took pictures. They took pictures of.
Are you at all worried about that?
No, I'm not. But they took pictures of the documents at Trump's house. They took no pictures of documents. In fact, it's not just me who would like to know what went on here. Senator Warner said it last week. He would like to get a briefing. He wants to see the documents.
No
and guess what? The FBI is saying no, but they took pictures of the folders in Trump's home.
The issue is not whether what Joe Biden did.
No, the issue is equal treatment under the law. That's the issue.
No, the
equal
issue is
treatment
you
under
do
the law.
not seem to ever see the same conspiratorial problems when it's a Republican.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories.
Okay, so that's the clip that NBC released, and the actual discussion between those two was a little bit longer than that. So I got a couple of articles about it. We'll see how they differ. So this is in Vanity Fair. And you can see their headline. Articles by Kelly Risman. Come on. Always. And we're able to read this at least thanks to one free article. So she writes, on Sunday morning's Meet the Press, host Chuck Todd had a fiery debate with Jim Jordan about the double standard in how the document discoveries were handled for former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden. So Jordan said, as you saw, the FBI raided the home of a former president 91 days before an election, took the phone of a sitting member of Congress, and so on. And he claimed that the agency has been weaponized. But Todd said, and you saw that in the video, you keep talking about this raid with Donald Trump. The amount of time there was 9 months between initial action the archives made for a request of documents before they even turned it over to the Justice Department. The subpoena was issued 60 days before they actually executed the subpoena. I have to say, it's about time that Chuck Todd took one of these people to the mat, so to speak, and just like pounded them. And more importantly, Todd continued, the only time the public found out about it is because Donald Trump told the public about it. You saw that in the video. You painted as a picture of the FBI did this, and this within hours of each other, when it was actually a year and a half of Donald Trump not complying with any of the requests from the National Archives. Again, you saw that in the video. This is not some sort of proof that somehow they've been weaponized and playing politics. But Jordan goes, they raided Trump's home. They haven't raided Biden's home. So Jordan is pissed off that there wasn't an FBI raid of Biden's home because Biden cooperated, basically. And Todd points that out because Biden didn't defy a subpoena, Congressman. Ohio Congressman also compared how pictures of Trump's scattered documents were taken, whereas no pictures of Biden documents have been released. Again, Congressman, the reason why there are pictures of the scattered documents is because that's what they found in evidence after waiting a year and a half. And that's a matter of taking pictures of evidence. Have you never watched a police procedural TV show ever? This is how it's done. They also tried to emphasize the difference. He also tried to emphasize the difference in security around how both leaders' documents had been stored, saying that Trump had documents, quote, locked in a secret room with Secret Service protecting them, end quote, while President Biden had documents, quote, in his garage and in a think tank funded by the Chinese. Those are Jim Jordan's words. That's an allegation that's simply not true. Todd then asks, you're worried about the Chinese and Hunter Biden. Are you worried about the Chinese and Donald Trump? Jordan said he wasn't before saying that the issue was equal treatment under the law. Todd disagreed, saying the issue is you do not seem to ever see the same conspiratorial problems when it's a Republican. You saw that in the video. Jordan's comments echo weeks of concerns from the GOP calling it a double standard in a treatment, a two-tiered justice system, and accusations that Biden's think tank, the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, was funded by Chinese government. Again, that's an accusation. That is not the truth. The article goes on to say in parentheses, these claims were debunked by a spokesperson for the University of Pennsylvania. The assertion that the Penn Biden Center received $54 million from China is total nonsense. And let's reiterate the fact that University of Pennsylvania, being a state-owned institution, would have to prove where every dollar comes from. The fiery debate also came days after classified documents were also discovered in the Indiana home of former Vice President Mike Pence. And let's note here that Mike Pence has not been subjected to all of this scrutiny Again, a double standard. If there's a double standard, the double standard comes from the Republicans themselves. Now, there's probably more details in the NBC article. And the reason I'm going to show that is because that 2 minutes or so of video was not the whole thing. And I worrying about copyright issues because I tend to do that. They might block us if we show video that they don't want to release to everyone, because the previous approximate 2-minute video was NBC's YouTube released video. Getting the rest of the video, which is about 5 additional minutes, would be going to a third party to get it, and NBC may or may not want that published. So this is NBC's article. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourself. Okay. So this is the NBC article about that appearance. By Summer Concepcion. Starts off by saying that Jordan argued that the two presidents, the former president and the current president, are having their cases handled differently regarding classified documents. Reiterates that same statement made in the other article about the so-called double standard between the discovery of the documents held by Trump at Mar-a-Lago and the vice presidential papers found at Biden's Delaware home and Washington office. Uses the term weaponized that Jordan used. And has the same quote. Has the same quote by Todd. And the same quote by Todd about the timeline and how long it took. The same assertion by Jordan about raiding the home. And Todd's pointing out that Biden didn't defy a subpoena. Now, I think this is a little bit more detailed. The National Archives contacted Trump officials soon after he left office in 2021 to inform them that the agency believed some documents were missing and needed to be returned. Following months of back and forth, the former president sent 15 boxes of files, some containing classified documents, from Mar-a-Lago to the archives in January of last year. More classified documents were found later after the FBI learned that Trump had not fully complied with the subpoena. So this is all the stuff that we've gone through before with this, but it's good to reiterate that for anybody tuning in for the first time. This video would be the same video we saw earlier. Goes into detail. Jordan's remarks come in the wake of the new GOP majority in the House. He now also chairs the Select Subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, which could serve as a one-stop shop for investigating perceived wrongdoing by the federal government against conservatives, including Trump. Yeah, note the fact that the article says perceived wrongdoing by the federal government against conservatives, including Trump. They don't seem to care about whether there's any wrongdoing against the liberals. The article makes it clear that Biden's come under scrutiny for documents with classified markings and where those documents were found. And last week, I think we went over it, but if we didn't go over it, Senate Majority Whip, Dick Durbin of Illinois, the top Biden ally, said last week to think that any of them ended up in boxes in storage one place or the other is just unacceptable. Yeah, he did say that last week. He was on the same show. Republicans, meanwhile, have seized on the revelations, with some arguing that it shows the FBI unfairly targeted Trump when it raided his Mar-a-Lago home to retrieve classified documents. Their assertion is false. It's not true. We talked about this last week, where Garland appointed Robert Hur, a federal prosecutor who's worked with many Republicans throughout his law enforcement career to oversee the Biden investigation. Jordan this month announced the Judiciary Committee had opened an investigation into Obama-era classified documents found at Biden's home and former Washington office. In a letter to Garland, Jordan demanding all documents and communications between the Justice Department, FBI, and White House about the discovery, as well as information about Garland's appointment of her. So he's demanding the documents. You know, he might not have the security clearance to even see these documents. So he can demand, but he can't necessarily obtain, because some of these documents may be beyond his ability to look at. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer asked the White House to release visitor logs from Biden's home in Delaware after more classified documents from the Obama administration were found at the president's Delaware residence. The White House counsel's office said last week that it was reviewing recent requests from Comer related to Biden's handling of classified documents and signaled it planned to cooperate to an extent. So that's the NBC News article about the exchange. So plenty of information in there, a little bit more than in the other. So this is something that came in. It is a piece of breaking news as of the start of the discussion between the producer and myself regarding tonight's show. So this was released just hours ago. We get this via Hal Sparks' tweet. And Hal says, I keep seeing news reports saying Israel bombed Iran, like it was limited and over already. This is ongoing, is bombing. This is reminiscent of the Six-Day War out of the blue, war of attrition. Again, details are sketchy, but no doubt this is a historic pivot. So this comes to us from next to TV. And explosions are reported at the headquarters of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran. It is a video. I think it's a series possibly of pictures and videos. So there's a picture. There's not much sound in that, but that's a video of the bombing. So that's bombing and gunfire. Again, that's just mostly a picture version of the video. So everything just keeps going on over there. So Israel continues to bomb Iran in order to continue to assert their right to the land which they believe is theirs, which they know is theirs. Here's a story about Bobert. So here comes a Bobert story. Comes to us through Ron Filipowski. I paid pretty close attention to a lot of them on the campaign trail in 2022, including Bobert. Didn't hear them telling voters Hunter Biden's laptop would be the first order of business. So Bobert wrote, on February 8th, 3 former Twitter employees will be coming before the Oversight Committee to discuss the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop story and much more. In her words, the accountability begins. So what Ron really was saying is, they talk about all the things that get them elected, but what they really want to do is investigate Hunter Biden instead of actually do the people's work. This is a video from Fox News. Hopefully we can I don't know if we can make that bigger or not. Let's see if I can make that bigger. I might have to go into Instagram in order to do that. So that would probably require me logging in. See if I can do that. Probably have to go get my login for that, because this computer's not logged in. Is this computer? That computer? This one might be logged into where I can look at it. I'll have to see. One of these might be logged in. Let's see if this one is. Yeah, that one is. So if I open it on here, it should work. I don't know if I can make that big enough, because it's a tiny little video. And it would be hard for you to see if it's not big enough, so. Maybe they have that on YouTube. Let's see if they have that on YouTube. Hang on one second. Look up that and see if they do. Not sure. I mean, there's plenty of videos where they're talking about that, but I don't know if I can sort this according to videos that are recent. And I don't know if I can make this big enough, but I can try. We'll see if it just makes it big enough. We'll see if expanding it, that might work. Yeah, it might be a little bit blurry, but it might work. So we'll see if it works.
Entering. I get what you're saying, Sandra, about always casing the area.
There's video
Has
of him
anybody
breaking through the
seen-
house. There's
I
video
haven't
of him
seen a video
breaking.
of him breaking through the house.
Okay, it's on the screen right now.
Okay.
No, he's and I assume it's with the
Okay.
hammer that you later see him with. But there's clear video.
Okay, so the video is there. It's just kind of tricky to scale it to a point where you can actually see it.
That we have been given outside of the house, the attackers on the right side of the screen breaking through the house.
Got it.
Let me try it on a different computer, because maybe if I try it again on this computer where I'm logged in, it'll work. Okay, that might work. That might work fairly good. It's going to be a little bit small. Audio now. Where did the audio go? Can't hear the audio at all. I don't know why I can't hear the audio. Frustrating. Where's the audio in this thing? Oh, well. Might just have to see if I can get it on that computer. Because I think this computer logs into it's too slow. All right. Well, I know the audio works on the computer over here. So I'm going to go get a password. I'll be right back. Okay, I got my password. I'm logged in. Let's hope that it works. Hope that we can make it work where you can actually see this video. It's logging me in right now to an Instagram account. That looks big. I'm going to scale it down. Now, is there any way that I can? I mean, I can make it that big. What is that? That's scaled at 250. Okay. Now, let's just hope that we can hear it when I put it up there. So, where's the... Okay, there's the audio. That's why I couldn't do the audio, because the audio button was way off screen. So hopefully, I don't know that I can restart this. So it's probably going to start in the middle of the
casing
video.
the area.
There's video
Has
of him
anybody
breaking through the
seen-
house. There's video
I
of
haven't
him
seen a
breaking.
video of him breaking through the house.
Okay, it's on the screen right now.
Okay.
No, he's, and I assume it's with the
Okay.
hammer that you later see him with. But there's clear video that we have been given outside of the house. The attacker's on the right side of the screen, breaking through the house.
Got it. Well, what? Okay,
Yeah,
great. Then maybe that's
he's
true.
clearly,
maybe
he's
I'm
clearly
wrong.
using that to break in.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But what? Oh yeah. No, the other issue is look, where is the evidence of a breaking and entering? I get what you're saying, Sandra, about always casing the area.
There's video
Has
of him
anybody
breaking through the
seen-
house. There's
I
video
haven't
of him
seen a video of
breaking.
him breaking through the house.
Okay, it's on the screen right now.
Okay.
No, he's, and I assume it's with the
Okay.
hammer that you later see him with. But there's clear video that we have been given outside of the house. The attacker's on the right side of the screen, breaking through the house.
Got it. Well, what? Okay,
Yeah,
great. Then maybe that's
he's
true.
clearly,
maybe
he's
I'm
clearly
wrong.
using that to break in.
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw that a couple of times. Basically, the person kind of short circuit. So that was the problem, you know, that that, you know, they can't really say that this guy was a friend of Pelosi, because now you have video of him actually breaking through the house, just as the other video that we saw through this week on other media outlets and on other things. Yeah, I don't agree with the assessment that he short-circuited. It seems like we're missing a part of that video where he would quote unquote short circuit, but he did kind of not be able to hold his point that somehow the guy attacking Pelosi was a friend. Yeah, it gets cut off before he has a real chance to respond. So sorry for the little technical there, but that was a Instagram video, and I couldn't find it on Midas Touches YouTube, so we couldn't just go to the YouTube video because apparently it's only on Instagram, and I had to log into Facebook in order to be able to open Instagram on a computer that could play it at a decent speed so that you would see it in its normal speed. And, you know, just too technical, but next time when I get an Instagram video, I will be logged in, so that won't be a problem. So it's been a whirlwind. roughly hour and 38 minutes. And I wanted to go through the material that was prepared for tonight's show. Checking over here to make sure. So nothing new has come in from the producer. From the producer, excuse me. Producer. Sometimes I just can't use my lips and say what I want to say. So, what have you all been talking about? Just as a step. Then we turn around and do the same thing. Hang on one second. I just saw something that I didn't like. So let me run a speed test. Make sure that the internet's stable right now. So just hang in there while I do a speed test. So it does look like there was a slight bump in the internet because I saw my video go down for a second. So let me just repeat that again and see if it's gotten better. That looks better. It's not up to full speed yet, but that's getting better. So there must have been a slight bump in the internet. So hopefully you all didn't notice too bad. Was a bit choppy, yep. Yep, there was a bump in the internet. Why there was a bump in the internet, I have no idea. But they're just bumps in the internet. Yeah, there was a slight freeze there. Should be better now. I mean, I can repeat the speed test one more time just to be sure. And I don't know if me doing the speed test itself actually interferes. So apologies if that's happening too. Yeah, it's pretty good. It could just be that computer too. Let's see what this computer does when I run the speed test. See what that does, and I'll let that run on the side. West Web says it's all about me, baby. Yeah, interestingly, the speed is better on one of my computers than on the other, so I don't know if it's what I have open or what. I'll have to figure that one out. So how are you doing today? WW, you're so funny. Benny's lurking everywhere, yes. Okay, hang on as new material comes in from producers. So hang on. Trump says he would build an impenetrable dome of the U.S. to protect against missile attacks. We mentioned this earlier. This article's in the Mind Shield. Former President Donald Trump said he would build an impenetrable dome over the U.S. if reelected as president to protect the country from nuclear attacks in World War III. In a video posted to his social media apps, True Social, on Friday, Trump said, if you take a look right now, the nuclear word's being mentioned all the time. This is a word you're not allowed to use. It was never used during the Trump administration. The former one-term president said that other countries are making nuclear threats because they have no respect for our leadership, and this could trigger a third world war. To be prepared for World War III, Trump said the U.S. needs unmatched technology and unrivaled strength. And yet he derides technology all the time, which is why he promised to build a state-of-the-art next-generation missile defense shield, just as Israel is now protected by the Iron Dome if he's reelected as president. Good luck with that. You're not going to get reelected as president. He continued, America must have an impenetrable dome to protect our people. And we looked at this video earlier. We talked about how Vladimir Putin and his allies are constantly making threats about using nuclear weapons in Ukraine if they're defeated on the battlefield. The defeat of the nuclear power in a conventional war may trigger a nuclear war. Nuclear powers have never lost major conflicts on which their fate depends. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who currently serves as deputy chairman of Putin's Security Council, said in a post on Telegram, according to Reuters. But their threats have not deterred the U.S. and other NATO allies from support of Ukraine in the conflict. Trump has repeatedly said that if he was in the White House, Putin would have never invaded Ukraine. On Thursday, he claimed he could end the conflict in 24 hours. Ha ha! If he can end anything in 24 hours regarding Putin, it would mean that he would admit that he was aligned with Putin in the first place. Okay, so we have that one. Yeah, I mean, if he could end something that Russia is doing in 24 hours, then he would basically admit collusion between himself and Russia. So So we have this from Richard Ojeda. This is absolutely spot on. Read it twice if you must, but this shows the double standard that is the GOP. Wake up, people, he says. Republicans want to raise the age of voting to 21 because 18 to 21 years voted in droves in the midterms. This is the same Republican Party that believes that an 18-year-old is mature enough to purchase an AR-15 and a 10-year-old enough to be a mom. Take all the time you need with that. We're seeing this. They don't want the 18 to 21-year-olds voting them out, yet they want the 18-year-olds to fight their wars. And they want 10-year-olds to carry babies just as though they're living in some third world country where there is no healthcare standard to prevent that. On this one, Ron Filipowski says, pretty sure Putin has said this a few days ago. Probably just a coincidence. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, it could also result in the dollar no longer being the world's currency because of our own arrogance and, quote, fight to save democracy in non-NATO Ukraine. Heavily sanctioned Russia is proving to the world that they don't need the US dollar or friendship to trade and thrive. Wow. She could be no further off base because all of what they're doing with Ukraine is about being able to have anything that would allow them to make money. They need money. That's why they need Ukraine. So really way off base with her ideas. Because Russia doesn't really produce anything that they can really point to as something to make any money off of. The only thing they really did produce that they could make money off of was oil. And they can't really do that right now with the embargo against oil coming into the United States and other countries. So they're not really making any money anywhere. WW says a dome could be a penal colony. If it was a real dome, yes. But what he's talking about is essentially the same thing that Reagan talked about. The idea that you have a defense shield over the United States that is technology based, that keeps everything out. Because he's basically saying that he doesn't think that we have good enough resources already in what we have already to protect the United States. He's saying that we need a defense shield that knocks everything down automatically. So yep, Russia's not trading and thriving. It'd be interesting to see what their currency has done. So how has the value of Russian currency changed since Ukraine war. This is from site Trading Economics. And you can make that bigger. You see that graph? That big old peak up there? Right here. See that dotted line? That's March 8th, 2022 or thereabouts. And you see how the value of the currency went down. And I think you hear the dollar was worth 130 rubles, and now the dollar is only worth 68. So kind of makes it go the other way, but the value has changed, that's for sure. Without starting a fight, the Democrats have issues with ignored corruption too, at least here in Illinois. Jim says, I don't know why we're still amazed that GOP has double standards. And John says, the GOP is fucked up. Jim jokes and says his protective dome would turn the sky orange. Got another one in from the producers, so hang on. So this is McCarthy defending Santos, and the author of the tweet says McCarthy is pathetic. McCarthy's defense of George Santos is filibustering and what about this pathetic. So this is Kevin McCarthy on Face the Nation on CBS.
But doesn't it further wear down credibility when you put someone who's under state, local, federal, and international investigation as a representative of your party on committees? I'm talking about George Santos, representative from New York.
We should have that discussion. So let's have that discussion. You want to bring up Santos, and let's talk about the institution itself, because I agree wholeheartedly that Congress is broken. And I think your listeners or viewers should understand what proxy voting was, because it never took place in Congress
But I'm asking you
before.
about George Santos.
I know you asked me a question. Let me ask you.
Because you could put it to a vote.
You asked me a question. I'd appreciate if you let me answer. So let's go through this, because it's not one simple answer. Congress is broken based upon what has transpired in the last Congress. The American public wasn't able to come in to see us. People voted by proxy, meaning you didn't have to show up for work. Bills didn't have to go through committee. So what I'm trying to do is open the people's house back for the people, so their voice is there, so people are held accountable. So now, as I just had in the last week, for the first time in 7 years, every member got to vote.
If you got a third of your caucus to vote to oust him, you could do so. You don't think you could get your Republicans to do that?
I wasn't finished answering the question. So if every single new person brought into Congress was elected by their constituents, what their constituents have done has lent their voice to the American public. So those members can all serve on committee. Now, what I'm trying to do is change some of these committees as well. Like the Intel Committee is different than
So
any
you're just
other
not going to
committee.
answer the question I asked?
Well, no, you don't get to question whether I answer it. You asked a question. I'm trying to get
I don't
you
think
through
you've
that.
said the name George Santos like once.
Well, no, but you know what?
You're talking about proxy voting and other things.
But you started the question with Congress was broken, and I agreed with
No,
you. But I was
Congress-
answering the question of how Congress is broken and how we're changing it. So if I can finish the question that you asked me, how Congress is broken, I equated every single member that just got elected by their constituents, they have a right to serve. So that means that Santos can serve on a committee the same way Swalwell, who had a relationship with a Chinese spy, but they will not serve on Intel.
They're wrapping
because
me
I
in the
think it's
control room because
well,
we're
that's
gonna break.
unfortunate. I wish I could answer the
have to leave
question.
it there. I would love to have you back.
I would love to be able to come back and have time to answer the questions.
We've spent a lot of time here, and I have more questions for
He didn't answer the question. Exactly, Jim. I'm going to answer the question I wanted you to ask. Most definitely. That's what he was trying to do. So he doesn't want to answer the question about a questionable person among his caucus. This one is about Carrie Lake not conceding. Ron says, it's really stunning how incredibly gullible people are. These election fraud charlatans have taken televangelist grift playbook to another arena. I will not concede until this examined by the Supreme Court. Stop the corruption. Restore America's elections. Donate now if you're with me. Donated before using account. Log in and like dollar values. Look at those dollar values up to $2,900. I mean, she's just really doing the same thing that they do, you know, send me money so I can fight. So. This one's called Carrie Lake and Trump, so let's see what this one is about. Oh, okay. So, former president phones it in for Carrie Lake and talks to her rally over the phone.
Yeah, we have the president on the phone. President Trump, you're not going to believe this crowd. Everyone in Arizona cares about election integrity. Tell them hello.
Well, hello, everybody. And it sounds like an unbelievable crowd. I wish I was there with you. Because Carrie is a fantastic person. It's a shame what happened. They had the machines, quote, broken. Okay. A lot of these Republican area machines were broken. It's a disgrace. And ultimately, she's going to be victorious. But I just want to thank everybody for being there. We love you all.
Thank you, President Trump. We love you too. And I'm going to hang up because I got a speech to deliver. We love you, President Trump. Yeah, we have the president.
Well, we have the president here, you know, blah, blah, blah. Unbelievable. Like, constantly that man. This next one's entitled Oh Silk. So let's see what this comes in as. Says this is a slightly different position than last week's vaccine shedding conspiracy like COVID itself. The conspiracies have new variants all the time. So Silk is tweeting, who caught COVID, survived it, but still have lingering side effects? The catchphrase is called long COVID. Some calls it a conspiracy theory. I call it being poisoned, she says. So she thinks that catching COVID is being poisoned. GOP is not very happy about what happened to Newsmax. Mad is about Newsmax getting the axe. Let's see what that's about. Republican Representative Andrew Clyde suggests people call DirecTV and consider removing their subscriptions, his words, because the company dropped Newsmax. So this is a video. don't really have to take myself out of this one.
What they're doing, I think maybe folks should reach out and talk to DirecTV directly, and maybe even consider removing their subscription or doing something like that, because it's completely unacceptable that they would remove an exceptionally high-rated conservative voice. What they're doing.
Oh my goodness. He calls them an exceptionally high-rated channel. That's so full of it. That is so full of it. Exceptionally high-rated. Dude, their channel would never get carried if it wasn't for the fact that somewhere when they signed up to be carried, they said you have to carry this channel and you have to include it in the base subscription of DirecTV. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And you know, on certain services like Samsung TV, it's there on a Samsung TV internet. Samsung TV Plus, as it's called. And it's on Pluto TV because Pluto TV is free, but Pluto TV is run and sponsored by somebody who is a Republican. So naturally, Pluto TV is going to carry those channels because the person in charge is a Republican. But really, I'd love to know where those channels are on some cable systems. I note that the lower third on that video said that they took it off of channel 13. So apparently it was on low numbered channels, wherever that is, DC or wherever. But honestly, I mean, to call it to try to insinuate that somehow a conservative channel was well viewed by the public is just crazy. WTF Over says, hey, fucko, I'm not one of your American people. The only American people you are pandering to are the MAGAs who support your lies. And he's responding to Senator Ted Cruz. The American people, says Cruz, deserve to know if any of the classified documents Joe Biden had at his house involve his family's business activities. So let's see him say that in his own words. This is on.
Well, that's certainly a reasonable inference. It seems Joe Biden, certainly when Joe Biden went to Penn, Communist China paid millions of dollars to fund what he was doing. Communist China, we also know, paid Hunter Biden and the Biden family millions of dollars. And so there's a long history of Communist China writing checks. The fact that University of Delaware is trying to keep these documents secret, in fact, it said it's not going to release any of them until 2 years after Biden leaves public office, I think that's unacceptable. And let me say, the content of these documents, last week, the administration briefed the Intelligence Committee. And I got to tell you, the members of the Intelligence Committee that I spoke to were really frustrated. Both Republicans and Democrats were ticked off because essentially the administration said, go jump in a lake. We're not going to tell you anything. And that is thoroughly unacceptable. Look, there's a range of classified documents. I've read a lot of classified documents. Some are just general geopolitical observations. The consequences of that are not terribly significant. But there are other classified documents that involve sources and methods that implicate how we gather secret information. And some of the most delicate are those that can endanger the lives of covert operatives. We don't know if any of these documents fall into that category. There's an entirely different level that we need to know, which is whether any of these classified documents that Joe Biden had illegally in multiple locations involve his own family's business activities and potential corruption, whether they involve Burisma in Ukraine, whether they involve communist China and the entities that were paying the Biden family millions of dollars. If he, in fact, had classified documents that implicate his own financial well-being, that raises the potential of very serious criminal liability. It's an issue I've talked about at great length.
Okay, so on and on he goes about all of these assertions which have no foundation in the truth. No foundation in the truth. So there we go, you know, more of that. This one's going to come in. Sherry Jacobus goes, only 1 hour, big laughter. Sebastian Gorka goes, hashtag the manhood hour. My definition of a real man. At Razor Fist joins America First, the manhood hour with Sebastian Gorka. My definition of a real man. Razor Fist with Sebastian Gorka, the manhood hour. So it's just a tweet. Yeah, only an hour, because that's probably about all they could muster. Best news you've heard in weeks is that the truth prevails and love's the answer. Yes, indeed. Okay, the next one is a tweet coming from Mark Hamill. Slava Ukraini. So 5,124,375 UAH has been raised via the Air Alert app. Since December, Mark Hamill has voiced an English audio version of the app. Hashtag United24 ambassador and legendary actor behind Luke Skywalker will notify users with quotes from Star Wars about 5 different types of danger. Sometimes air alerts sound 5 times a day and last for hours. When they're over, it's especially nice to hear a familiar voice saying, "May the force be with you." The app also calls for donations for the armed forces of Ukraine, and you can join in by going to this website. Response Hamill sparkles. Real heroes stay and help after the press push. Mark Hamill's a real hero. So there's also some stuff in here that's advertising. I stand with Mark Hamill, says this user. Mark is an absolute legend. Thank you, Mark Hamill. And then there's some other comments there. I think this website here, though, is probably a donation website. So this is United 24. United 24 presents a Jedi-themed update for the Air Alert app. Mark Hamill, English voiceover, and donate functionality are now alive. So this is their website where they're telling people what they can do to get the Air Raid Alert app. So that's what that is. Now that is really cool. So this is a little bit of humor at Florida Governor DeSantis' expense. It's entitled from the producer, Trolling DeSantis Eminem Style, and Rex Chapman writes, Green is wearing the DeSantis boots. They're just trolling Tucker Carlson now, says TG. And so Green has on the white DeSantis boots. And they're trolling Tucker with this look of how they're dressed up. So that's pretty cool. So that's our humorous segment for tonight. They're all naked, says Jim. The Eminem characters are not gone, says WW. Yeah. My Voltmobile doesn't always start. I had to get a push start in the parking lot today from some passerbys. Well, good thing you got a push start, Benny Loco. Benny Loco says, Headspace, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Headspace Enterprise. I'm going to look up UAH. UAH is the Ukrainian currency. And I do not know if I'm going to pronounce it correctly. But it's Ukrainian Hryvnia. It's spelled Hryvnia. Hryvnia. I do not speak Ukraine. But that's Ukrainian currency. Not many hills in the desert. Yeah. Fraud alert. George Santos, formerly of Jewish heritage, speaks of the Holocaust on House floor. Do Republicans have any decency or honor left in their party? So this is an Apple News article. Let's see if
or like a tease, or like a tease.
Let's see where this one takes me. Experience more with hard-to-get tables from Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Wow.
Chase, make more of what's yours.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle commemorated International Holocaust Remembrance Day on Friday, including this one.
I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the grandmother of one of my DC staffers who is a 93-year-old survivor of Auschwitz and is also one of the few survivors of her family who was tragically lost at the hands of Nazi murderers. Anti-Semitism is a plague in this nation, and it is undoubtedly up to us to ensure this kind of tragedy is never to be seen again.
So, just as a reminder, George Santos lied about being Jewish, and not only that, he also lied about his grandparents escaping the Holocaust.
I've seen how socialism destroys people's lives because my grandparents survived the Holocaust. For a lot of people who are descendants of World War II refugees or survivors of the Holocaust, a lot of names and paperwork were changed in name of survival. So I don't carry the family last name that would have been Zabrowski.
That is, it's amazing. But it's just in the context of this very sober and somber moment of Holocaust remembrance. I mean,
there's no place
shame.
he won't go. Exactly. I actually had in my office the House floor camera up, and when I was not alerted to that he was going to take the floor, and all of a sudden I was like, oh no, he's not going to really do this right now. He's just trolling us at this point. So yes, no shame is one thing here, but for all the distraction that is George Santos, I do think the campaign finance piece of this is the piece we should keep our eyes on, because it is clear Kevin McCarthy and House Republicans are not interested in doing anything about Santos. But if indeed there is a criminal investigation into his campaign finances that emerges with an indictment, that will change the calculus. That will all of a sudden, that will change Kevin McCarthy's behavior, one would imagine, as it relates to George Santos. So I would keep our eyes on what's happening with his finances.
I can get used to this. I can get used to this.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, you see what he was saying is just, disingenuous, not true. I mean, he claims to have Jewish heritage, which he doesn't have. And you see the CNN reporter's reaction, the anchor's reaction, and the reaction of the people on the panel. So, I mean, really something. He just claims to be all these different things that he's not. So, keep an eye on him, yes. Yeah, keep a big eye on him. In space news this week, the 26th was NASA's official Remembrance Day for Apollo 1 for the loss of Columbia and the loss of Challenger. And we are at the 37-year mark as of yesterday for Challenger. And friend Kath MCC had the following tweet, which our producer brings to us. I was 22, my last semester as an undergrad in college. I watched with my mom. I had been a NASA freak since I was 5, and I watched the moon landing with my mom on her birthday. When Challenger exploded, we both cried. So Rex Chapman had noted January 28, 1986, 37 years ago today, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded. I was in a civics class watching live. I will never forget. Where were you? And here is the video for anyone who wasn't there. So.
13 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. Liftoff of the 26th Space Shuttle mission, and it is cleared to carry.
Roll program confirmed. Challenger airplane downrange. Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles most of the flight 104%. I'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%. Three engines running normally. Trigger fuel bells. Trigger APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. And range distance 3 nautical miles. Engines throttling up. The engine now at 104%. Challenger, go and throttle up. Challenger, go and throttle up. 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. And range distance 7 nautical miles. Controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downwind. We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Our director confirms that. We are looking at checking with recovery forces to see what can be done at this point.
Okay, the audio in that is old and distorted. I guess that was kind of pulled from an audio tape, or I'm not really sure why the audio is so distorted. But basically you have the countdown. You have the ignition. 4, 3, 2, 1. Then it takes off. And the first messages are something about the engines being, I think, at 95 or 96%. And some people ask why, when it goes to throttle up, it's 104%. It's 4% higher than what they thought the original rating of the engines would be, but it is within the parameter and scope and abilities of the engines. So when they say 104%, and that is the max Q, that is what they would do to achieve orbit velocity, to get away from the gravitational forces of the Earth. So you're looking at it. You're looking at the video following it. They give the call to go 104%, and you see the flare out then, and you see the explosion, because all up to that point, the solid rocket booster seal is leaking, and there's a fire emanating from one of the solid rocket boosters that ignites the tank, destroys the tank, and destroying the tank breaks the integrity of the shuttle apart. Meanwhile, they're tracking the telemetry of the shuttle, and it seems like all is normal because they haven't really seen what's going on. But we're already seeing the solid rocket boosters veer off. So we're already seeing everything that is broken apart falling to Earth, and the boosters just going off in two different directions. And basically everything falling from the shuttle is falling so fast that there is no chance to save the astronauts. That's basically what happens. And unfortunately, even after they did the investigation after Challenger, one of the things they did with Challenger is they investigated, they saw what they did wrong, they fixed the O-rings in the manner in which they could to make them safer, and they went back as soon as they could safely to continue the program. But one of the things they did after Challenger that they did not do after Columbia is that they buried all of Challenger. They took all of the artifacts of the Challenger explosion, collected them all up, and buried them. So they never really like constantly reinvestigated what was going on with Challenger. What's different about Columbia is when Columbia happened and when Columbia had something come off the external tank and hit the tiles of the space shuttle and damaged the tiles, is two things. One, two key things to learn from Columbia. One, Columbia could not go to the ISS because Columbia was the first operational orbital space shuttle. So they had to make a judgment call based on what they could see in the video and say that everything seemed to be okay with Columbia. But there was no way that they could take Columbia to the ISS to examine it because Columbia was heavier and didn't have the docking adapter to dock with the ISS. So it was technically incapable of docking with the ISS to be inspected. The other space shuttles could dock with the ISS. They could be inspected. They could have gone out. They could have done a spacewalk. They could have looked at the shuttle. They could have seen if the tiles were good or bad. They could have made the determination that they couldn't return, and they could have waited to get another shuttle out there to do something about it, or they might have had a patch kit or whatever of sorts to try to patch some of the tiles. Can't do that with Columbia. So the other thing about Columbia is after Columbia blew apart upon reentry, because the heat tiles were damaged and the integrity therefore was compromised. When they regained all the parts of Columbia, they did not bury Columbia after the investigation. Columbia remains all spread out. You can go see Columbia. Anybody that is going to launch another rocket can learn from Columbia. People that are in different kinds of business can learn from Columbia. Columbia has the program that they refer to called the Lessons Learned. And so Columbia, you can reinvestigate, relook at, constantly look at this. It's a public resource available that can be looked at to learn the lesson of what to do and what not to do. So you have, I think it's something like 84, 85 parts that come from the space shuttle that are now on Artemis, including 4 of space shuttle's main engines modified for more performance to operate on Artemis 1 that recently flew and returned to Earth. So you have that, but you have also the knowledge of Columbia and what not to do to avoid any kind of incident going on. And Artemis has different solid rocket boosters. It still has solid rocket boosters, yes. They still are sectional, yes. But they're not the same solid rocket boosters that flew on board the space shuttle. So there is a lot learned there that you know, they learned from Columbia, and there's a lot left to learn. And it always sits there, and there's always a program, you know, designed to try to make sure that people do what's right. And people that work for NASA that do something that encourages better astronaut safety are awarded, and they're given what's called a Silver Snoopy Award. They get a little trophy that is in the shape of Snoopy the astronaut. And that trophy actually flies on board an actual space mission and is certified as such, so that when they receive it, you know, they get something that flew on board an actual mission, an actual mission to the ISS and back. So, yeah. Why did they bury it? One of the reasons why they buried it is to make sure that it wasn't like somewhere where somebody could steal. So they buried it in a crypt. I think it's actually buried out there at Kennedy Space Center in one of the old launch pads. So they wanted to make sure that nobody could touch the artifacts of the shuttle, and nobody could obtain anything that belonged to the astronauts. Not, you have to like look and see what the families were given as far as what they were allowed to have. But the main thing was to make sure to respect and honor the materials. And they just was a different commission, a different panel of people that were involved in the Challenger accident investigation versus the type that were involved with Columbia. So, I mean, you can look at that. You can probably look up, why do they bury? It took nearly 2 months to recover the remains from the ocean floor, about 18 miles off the shore of Cape Canaveral, Florida. And the commingled cremated remains of the 7 Challenger astronauts is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. So that's where their remains are buried. NASA created what's called the Office of Safety and Mission Assurance. So this is an article about it. It's too small to read. Hang on. This goes into all the detail about why it happened. This agency was created in 2003, so and the program is actually called the Apollo Challenger Columbia Lessons Learned Program, so it has a longer title than I thought it was. I don't know if it says. Doesn't really say in here, but it mentions this program, which I learned about recently by watching a video on NASA TV. This article's from November 10th, says they're currently considering additional actions to take regarding the artifact that will properly honor the legacy of Challenger's fallen astronauts and families. So apparently this article mentions an artifact that was found. So apparently a recent dive in last year found an artifact that was from Space Shuttle Challenger that was not previously found. Was discovered by a TV documentary crew seeking the wreckage of World War II era aircraft. Divers noticed a large object covered by sand on the seafloor. So it must have fallen down there after the accident. It must have been covered up by the seafloor, and it must have been opened up when recent hurricanes and things happen. And it's found here, it's 37 years later. So that's interesting. I didn't know about that. That's new to me. Anyway, I mentioned this. I think this is.
Welcome to NASA Edge, an inside and outside look at all things NASA. We're here in sunny Florida at the NASA Kennedy Space Center. And joining us now is Mike Tonelli, who is the program manager for the Apollo Challenger Columbia Lessons Learned program. Thanks for being on the show, Mike. Thank you for the invitation. Now, this program is near and dear to your heart. Can you tell us a little bit about that Lessons Learned program? Certainly. The Apollo Challenger Columbia Lessons Learned program is a brand new innovative effort, agency-wide, to take the lessons of the past and showcase them towards a future perspective. So we're looking at a very exciting future for NASA. We've got exciting programs such as SLS going back to the moon by 2024, and a host of other programs and missions that the agency is having. With those new programs and missions also come a brand new workforce, thousands of new people. And a lot of those folks haven't had the time yet to bridge the lessons of the past to the future. And that's our responsibility. So we're taking a look at the past, both the things we did right and the things we could have done better, putting them through that lens, focusing on the future, so therefore they can take the lessons of the past, look at the future, and apply those to increase their mission success going forward. So with Apollo, Challenger, and Columbia, and we're looking at the tragedies that were involved with those three. We primarily focus on Apollo 1, Apollo 13, Challenger, and Columbia. We teach the lessons of how things could have done better. However, we also do take time to look at the good things, because through 60 years of plus of NASA history, there's a lot of great lessons of NASA's done things really, really well. For example, STS-1, the first launch of Space Shuttle Columbia in 1981, was a stunning success, the first reusable spacecraft in the world. So we want to take examples like that and showcase them, because all the new vehicles coming online, both commercial and NASA, will have their first processing flows and their first launches. So we can glean a lot of great expertise and knowledge from those times as well. So it's a mix both of things we could have done better, plus times we got it spot on right.
Now, a part of that program is the Columbia Room, where you have artifacts from the tragedy of Columbia Space Shuttle. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. When we lost Columbia on February 1st, 2003, we had an effort, the largest ground search in American history, to bring Columbia home. Once that was completed, the decision by our leadership at the time was to make Columbia accessible to the workforce, and is accessible for the purpose of teaching. So Columbia now still has a mission to perform. The crew still has a job to do, and that job is to teach and inspire the next generation. So folks that come into the Columbia Preservation Room will see artifacts of Columbia. As they walk through those, it's a storytelling journey, explaining what happened, but also the lessons that came out of every single phase of the flight, of how decisions were made, and how perhaps in some ways we could have made better decisions. So they can then take those examples, take them back into the workplace, and as they're working on their programs and missions, they can reflect back and hopefully serve as an instrument of guide to them going forward. If they reach those decision points, they can use it as a tool making the right decisions forward.
And of course, there's some sensitivity to that. We want to be very respectful of the family, so you don't allow us going in there and doing the show in there or showing video from that, although people can visit it.
The families have been unbelievably gracious and allowing us to share Columbia with our workforce for teaching purposes. We thank them very much for that. We take really good care of Columbia and protect her very well, as if she was still solid flight hardware flying. So we want to protect the dignity and the respect and reverence of the room. And within those constraints, we take folks in the proper way and make it a teaching, a learning environment, if you will.
Now, as you started this program, how important was it to you to get senior leadership behind this?
That's one thing. When you start a brand new program up, buy-in and collaboration is key. So my first step was to approach our senior leadership. I am so humbled and thankful that our senior leadership stepped right up and gave full support and backing to the creation of this program. And that support has not only continued, but it's strengthened over the last couple of years. So and great appreciation to our leadership for helping us.
Speaking of leadership, we had a chance to sit down with Bob Cabana to get his perspective on the Apollo Challenger Columbia Lessons Learned program. Let's check it out. Bob, I know you're very familiar with the Lessons
Okay,
Learned program.
this is a pretty long video, and you can watch that on NASA. So you'll find that on NASA's nasa.gov. You can watch it wherever. But yeah, I'll get you the link. So I'll get you the link in a little bit. I need to set up something here too. So hang on. I need to set up a little something here. So just bear with me. Okay. Do I expect more or less action towards advancing the Artemis project with the current lot in Congress? Let me see who's on the committee. Like, so which committee controls NASA? The Committee for Science, Space, and Technology has jurisdiction over NASA. Frank Lucas of Oklahoma is the chair of the current one. So he's from Oklahoma. Zoe Lofgren of California is the ranking member in the minority. What NASA hardware? Is made in Oklahoma. Not really sure what else made in Oklahoma, so that's an interesting question. So Be interesting to see what happens. Bobert's on the committee. Oh boy. It says the following committees have jurisdiction over NASA. So the one thing that might be in NASA's favor, though, is, the idea that but the House Appropriations Committee, the Subcommittee for Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies, the Senate Appropriations Committee, and the Senate Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Subcommittees. Which those are the people on that committee. I'm looking to see where they're from. I don't know. Santos is on that committee. Is that a given, Chiefs versus Eagles, Trucker John, or is it just looking that way? Then he says football. You know what's funny about football, Benny, is that all the MAGA people were saying, we can't watch football because football is too biased toward the liberal left. And so, they said that they couldn't watch football. And then I see one of the MAGAs actually saying that they're watching the football and they're enjoying the football. And I'm like, what happened? What suddenly made football okay again? I have no idea. So it's already set, says John. Football is antiquated, says Benny Loco. Yeah, you hear music because I put music on while we wait. I thought we were waiting for somebody, so I put music on. Sort of, kind of like Jeopardy music, yes. Pretty much hold music, yes. There was supposed to be a caller calling in, but I don't know if the caller forgot to call in, so I don't know. Ghostbusters. History proves that wars have a tendency to escalate out of control. By the end, the costs exceed the participants' wildest dreams at the beginning. People know this, and yet they cheer on every escalation. Wild to watch this play out in real time. Iran's is being attacked. A number of weapons, drones, factories have been struck. Iranian telegram indicates Israeli Air Force has been seen over multiple Iranian cities. Seems Russia's drone supplier to attack Ukraine may be going out of business. There's the video. The audio is not on, so hang on. Doesn't look like there's any audio on it. So is Nick going to call or not? I don't know. Sorry about your friend who has Parkinson's from playing football, WW. Nick, where are you? Are you going to call or not? I don't know. We're waiting on Nick to call, but we don't know what's going on. So Trucker John, where are you at right now? Are you watching the game from someplace? You're watching it in your truck, or you park somewhere and you're watching it somewhere? Chiefs won 23-20. Game's okay. Anyway, we were waiting on Nick, but Nick has not been able to call, so maybe we'll resolve that next week and we'll be able to take a call from Nick next week. So it's been 3.5 hours almost, and I'm ready to go to sleep. And we will be back next week with new topics on freedom of speech and you. And we will see you then. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you later. Bye.